This past Sunday, I was teaching a bonus wellness workshop. It was a small group of students, and they had just purchased the Meditation Momentum 21 Days to Building Inner Fitness program. And I shared with them this mantra that's been supporting me and really aligning my life for the last almost 2 years. It's a two-word phrase that can support you with all of the decisions in your life, whether they're big ones, like what started mine, or they're small. And it's my honor to share these words with you and also a little story so that we can get to know each other a little bit better about how these words emerged in my life and how I truly embody lifelong wellness with inner fitness and simple nutrition, especially by focusing on resilience. So let's just start with what those two words are. Those two words are minimize regret. Now, here's the story. It was a little less than 2 years ago. My husband and we were walking out of a couples therapy session because, yes, therapy is for healing, but it's also for building and growing. And I casually, but a little bit desperately, turned to our couples therapist, who I really admired, and asked him what I should do with a big decision. Now, let me explain. I was in an incredibly tough and yet privileged position. You see, my daughter had just finished first grade, and this was her first year in person after doing pandemic kindergarten homeschool ridiculousness. And I had just started my business, Robin's Wellnest. At that time, I was focusing primarily on Reiki energy healing, and some retreat hosting was beginning to emerge. Now, by the literal grace of God or universe, whatever it is that you want to call it, for me, it's God. I've spent a lot of time healing my religious trauma to have that relationship with my higher power. And for me, that's God. Now, by the grace of God, I had applied, interviewed, and then been appointed to this 1 year term, filling a seat on our local public schools board. Now, this was incredible because it was a full circle moment for me. I was a secondary math teacher, and I also am a licensed administrator. I have my master's degree in education as well as an education specialist degree. So it was like this incredibly fulfilling experience. And I loved the work on the school board. In fact, the work was amazing. The politics, not so much. But I don't know, this might be shocking. Actually, in retrospect, it doesn't feel that shocking for me that I approached my service on the school board as I approach all leadership opportunities, which is with vulnerability and authenticity, the two most powerful factors, in my opinion, for strong leadership. And with that, the political aspect actually became incredibly rewarding. I forged relationships with others who held differing views on this ever evolving political spectrum. Now, the question, getting back to what I posed to the therapist, was as my term was coming to an end, should I run a campaign to be elected to continue serving on the school board with work that I found both fulfilling and necessary? But you see, there was something else going on at the time. My dad was sick. My dad was really sick. My dad is my first and forever love of my life. He was my safety and my security. He was even my savior as a child who had witnessed unspeakable trauma. My dad was dying. He was only 69 at the time, and he was aggressively progressing in his diagnosis of early onset dementia and Parkinson's disease. My dad was my everything, especially after my mom tragically and traumatically died when I was just in kindergarten. I'm his only living child. I do have a half brother, But before me, I had a full brother who traumatically passed away just a few months into his life before I was born. So much heaviness and yet so much love. And so I asked my therapist, what should I do? Should I answer this calling that I have to serve my community, especially during these tumultuous times, and put energy and effort into running a campaign for school board? Or should I not and focus on the thing that was really the hardest to face at the time? My dad's emerging decline, along with, of course, growing a small business and being a dedicated and perhaps a little bit intense parent of a young child. The therapist said, what decision would minimize regret? And those words forever changed my life. I no longer in that moment wrestled with any types of decision making. That question led me immediately to love. What would minimize regret? Focus on love, the love of my family before the love of my community. The community will be there. Others are there to step into that role, but no one else was there to step into my role as the only child of this deep, dedicated love that I held and still do hold for my dad. And I now can look back and see how powerful that moment was. And now I am so honored to be able to share this story as part of a catalyst for you in creating your story. But in order to create your story, you need to know the right questions to ask yourself to empower that inner fitness. So the question, the tool that you can now have, just as I do, is what would minimize regret? There's more to all of this story, and we'll share that for another day. But if you like this story, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. And you also want to check out the show notes for some more resources for you, including a link to a blog version of this video that has a bonus link to the Brainstorm free write that started this share. Until next time, namaste.